Let's talk about The Athletic, which is a must for all football fans and has loads of brilliant Burnley content. The Athletic brings you the best coverage of football, combat sports, NFL, NBA and loads more. A world-class team of football writers, including Andy Jones, who covers the Clarets, and it's completely ad-free with no ads and no annoying pop-ups. If you're not signed up to The Athletic yet, fans of TurfCast can now get 50% off the annual subscription price and a 7-day free trial. To get the deal, head to theathletic.co.uk/TurfCast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you're listening to or watching this latest episode of TurfCast podcast with me, Joe Redmond, as usual. I'm doing stupid things on the right-hand side of your screen at the minute. And in a new hospital is Simon Townley. Been moved to Burnley now, haven't you, mate?
Up the Clarets, back in the home land, absolutely.
How is the health?
So, alright, mate. I'm positive news. I'll be home this week by the looks of it.
Happy days. So we can get back to doing the podcast in person probably soon as well, because obviously lockdown's over. Yeah, lockdown's over, isn't it? So
should be a bit of a different vibe, but we've never done actually a video podcast in the same room.
That's the point. We need to think about how we're going to do that, don't we?
And we can do two cameras, I'm sure. We'll work it out.
We've both got cameras.
If not, we'll just Skype each other in the same room.
Yeah, I could do that. And I've got my work camera anyway, which I can always use. But yeah, first things first. We'll have a look back to the Sheffield United game then. Obviously, we just drew 1-1. Me and you were on the watch-along as well. I know at the end of the watch-along we did as full-time thoughts, which, if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube, because I get a quick turnaround with that, if I do say so myself. I clip it up, get it out there as its own little video, like a match reaction, just 3-4 minutes on YouTube, so people can see what me, Simon, and the other two watch-along people thought about, which this week, and it's going to be next week as well, with Johnny Tate and Jared Ward as well. But I'll just let you give your thoughts on the game again, Simon.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, first off, I wasn't really sort of delighted, and then all of a sudden we get that goal. Then you go in at half time, and the second half we came out and they literally threw nothing at us for 20 minutes. They didn't even lay an hand on us, did they? So it did feel like 2 points dropped at the end. But I mean, in the balance of play, in terms of chances created, probably a good result. Do you know what I mean? It's that Sheffield United did throw a lot of good chances in there at Nick Pope, and thankfully we got away with it. Yeah,
it's one of them that I don't disagree, and pretty much everyone who watched the game said that on the balance of play, 1-1's probably a fair result. But also at the same time, we could have easily and should have been 3-0 up by the time that they scored their goal. So on the other balance of play, you could easily say that Burnley deserved to win the game, and that's what I'm going to go with. I think we deserved to win the game, and we should have won that game.
I don't disagree with your logic. I just think, like you said, that Sheffield United fans 100% will be saying they should have been 3-0 up before we scored.
Yeah, it's one of them though, isn't it? Like I say, both sides are going to say that. But obviously, I'm not getting too deflated. We conceded late on, but I did put that big post up about how we shouldn't feel deflated because we've lost one game in 11 Premier League games, 7 points out of West Ham, 22 points out of 30.
And that one game against City.
I know, and that game were against Man City as well. I mean, admittedly, we did get battered in that game, but it's one of them. You write off the games against Liverpool and City, I think, these days, because they're both just so good. And unfortunately, we've got Liverpool coming up soon as well. So
Southampton, mate. They turned it on, didn't they?
Yeah, they did a very Burnley-esque performance, apart from the fact that, obviously, they managed to attack against City, which is not something that we always tend to do. But in terms of having got the goal, should I say, like they defended like beavers, as they'd say on Soccer Saturday, and defended.
I remember that.
They've not said it for a while, have they? No, defending like beavers, Jeff. Yeah, it was good. But I think for me, it's one of them. Like, I'd have took a draw. I'd have took a draw at the start of play. So I think I'm going to happy with it. We're about not losing for us in terms of getting Europe. It's about not losing, because if we'd have lost, they'd have stretched their lead too far ahead of us, and the season would have probably been over after that game. Whereas now, if we get a result against West Ham on Wednesday, we can still overtake Sheffield United depending on what result they get this week.
I just think that shambles of a performance at Bramall Lane, I would have liked to have get the 3 points. I think the Europa, I would have liked to have got the 3 points. And looking at the fixtures coming up, I think it's probably where we should have got 3 points.
Yeah, fair enough. That going back to that shambles at Bramall Lane, it is probably the standout bad performance of the season. Obviously, Villa at home on New Year's Day will be another one, but I think for me, this is what I've said about this at the start of the season and stuff. And the people used to always ask me like, "Oh, how do you think Burnley's season's gone so far?" Like in February, I'd always say, "Well, I feel it's been a little bit stop-start." Now you can easily say it's been a good season, obviously because of the run that we put together. But we just kept picking up results. We just kept picking up results and then getting pegged back and putting in like silly performances. Like I said, the Sheffield United game and the Villa game being prime examples. But it's a shame that we didn't show this kind of form now at the start of the season, because we'd probably be comfortably in the top 7, probably even 6 at this point. We would be a lot higher than Sheffield United, and everyone's just raving about Sheffield United, as we found out on the commentary at the game at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? Massive sort of like plus points for me. I like Wilder prior to the game. Loved him after the game because of how complimentary we were with Burnley and Dash. And do you know what? If there's two teams slogging out for the Europa thing, I'd rather be doing it with them than some other clubs in the Premier League. Let's put it that way. I would rather Sheffield United get it than an Everton get it.
Yeah, I'd rather Sheffield United get it than
Sorry,
Everton
Arsenal fan that listens.
I was thinking that. I think Owen's going to be fuming. He says he likes you as well.
There's my uncle as well. My uncle's a Scouse fan. Well, it was just like the nearest one you could compete with that you would expect to be in that position.
Put it this way, I'd rather Sheffield United get it than Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a better example. Everton was probably the wrong one. I don't actually mind Everton, but I don't like the fact that there's other clubs around that probably get it. That I think I'd rather, if we're not going to get it, I'd rather Sheffield get it.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's one of them where I think for us, obviously we do want it, but looking at some of the games that we've got coming up, we're still going to play Liverpool, we're still going to play Wolves, and with the squad that we have at the minute in terms of injuries, yes, Chris Wood's come back, yes, JBG
massive now. Biggest squad we've had in about 5 games.
But
now.
In terms of biggest squad we've had in 5, that don't mean a lot, does it? In terms of Burnley squad, does it? I mean, finally we managed to name 9 substitutes rather than 3 or 4, whatever it were, and not including the 4 keepers that he put on the bench at City.
Tell you, man, playing. JBG even got a run out.
Survived. Good 20 seconds and a good 20. Try and get 40 seconds in there. It's one of them, though, isn't it? I think we could do 4-4-2 next time out with Chris Wood and Jay up front, with Vidra coming off the bench and impacting, maybe Brady even starting or coming off the bench and having Eric Peters on the left. There's going to be options finally against West Ham, but that does bring us on nicely to West Ham. Obviously, what are your thoughts on the game going forward? As I have spoken to a West Ham fan already, and you'll hear that in a few minutes. But it's a far, far bigger game for them than it is for us.
It is, and I can imagine I've not heard the interview, but I can imagine they're quite confident that this is a game that they should be winning.
Yeah.
For them at home and in the position they're in, this is where they need the points. But like you said, they need the points. We don't. I know we want the points, but we don't need the points. So that's a different mindset straight away before you go in. Secondly, you don't know what West Ham are turning up. You've got 2 different sides there, and they put the same 11 out each week. And I think they haven't won back-to-back games since this season. I don't even think it's this season. It might not be that, but I heard it on Sky Sports. It might be August or something like that. They've not won back-to-back games in however long. So, that just proves how inconsistent they are. So you just don't know who they're going to play.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is look at the last couple of results. Beat Chelsea 3-2, and were good value for that win as well.
They were as well, yeah. And then the Newcastle were.
And then the Newcastle one. In the end, a draw's a good result. But if you just look at the last 2 games, they've conceded 4 goals in the last 2 games. Yes, they've scored 5. Obviously, they're a lot better going forward than they are defensively. But that is, for us, something we can look to exploit, their defensive line.
Did you see the Newcastle game? They went ahead 3 times and conceded twice, pretty much straight after, 90 seconds after or something, with Shelby.
Yeah, obviously it was 2-2, weren't it? So they went ahead twice and then got pegged back pretty much straight away every single time.
Yeah, I think they got pegged back twice, and then I was like, what the fuck? No, they couldn't hold it. Bottled it as soon as they went ahead.
It's one of them, though. I think it's about character as well and confidence, and they don't at the minute. I don't
and they've
feel
got no one either over there.
Yeah, they don't have that mentality as well at the minute of right, we're in front now, we can hold it. I think they'll have that mentality of, right, here we go again, we need to try. They're going to come at us, for God's sake. And it's all a mentality thing, an all negative mindset, and they'll just go back into the shell.
Every club's got that sort of leader within the ranks, and theirs is obviously Nolan, for obvious reasons. And if he ain't playing, mate, it's a deck of cards waiting to tip over at some points. But my biggest fear is Ben Mee being out for the season and looking like it. And I don't know, like I'm hoping. Long's never really had that much of a chance to run into the game, to run into the season, and 4 or 5 games, we might see what's kept him here 10 years. and not plus whatever he's been here.
He's been here more than 10 years now, and he's due a testimonial.
It is. But like you said, like 10 years plus, he's here for a reason, and let's see what it is, mate. And this is his chance to shine, because if you can't take these moments, mate, it's poor dude, really.
I mean, like,
he's the weak link at the minute for me, and he's what makes me worried.
Yeah, I think every time he's on the ball, or I think you were saying on the watch along last time, weren't you, that Tarky's probably mentally preparing to do 50% of his job and 100% of his own job, because he knows he can't just hang his hat on him like he does with Ben Mee. But we'll just quickly touch on Kevin Long then. I mean, it's one of them that, yes, this is his chance. He has played in the side before. I remember him playing towards the end of the season that we qualified in season 7 when we qualified for Europe, because I think Tarky and Ben both picked up injuries towards the end of that season, and he played a couple of times. It might have been the end of last season, I can't remember. I've never really watched him and thought, this lad's good, we can rely on this lad can defend. And again, we're watching him against Sheffield United. I remember thinking, like, yeah, he is obviously the weak link now. I think he's probably lower end Championship defender at best, maybe even League One if I'm being harsh, but I don't necessarily I'm not necessarily confident in the results over the next few games, especially now that Ben Mee's missing.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree, and I think he is the weak link. But I think as a defender, this is me hoping, but as a defender, if I knew that guy wasn't coming back, and I'm not just in for a game or two, I might not be in next game because Ben might be back. This, he's throwing everything into 90 minutes and probably making mistakes because of it. Maybe he can settle in, as Bully would say, and move forward, because he knows it's his slot now till the end of the season.
Well, he came on against Palace late on, didn't he? And he made an absolutely brilliant either a tackle or a block. I can't remember off the top of my head. I remember at the time thinking, hey, maybe he's finally, he's matured, because I know defenders can sometimes mature quite late on and things like that. So maybe he's been around Tarky, he's been around Ben Mee, he's been around Keane, he's been around all these Burnley players for the last 10 years, like you say.
Been around Steve Davis back in '94, I think.
Exactly, he's been there that long, yeah.
The first
so that's what I mean. Like, finally, Steve Davis Mark 1 in 1980s. So finally, he's learned. But again against Sheffield United, I think it was obvious that he was still getting caught out. But I seem to remember when he was on loan at Aki Stanley. So certain people that we used to speak to, that obviously remain nameless, that was just sort of like saying that he looks at this player and don't understand how he plays for a club like Burnley.
We'll leave that one there, pal.
But it's one of them that
for a long time ago, though, to be fair. I mean,
that's what I mean. I do think he's obviously a lot better then, because that was literally 10, 11 years ago. That was when he first came here. But that's what I'm saying. It's one of them, like, now he should have, that's what I was saying previously, he should have matured. And you'd think, being around all these defenders and being around Premier League facilities and Premier League coaches and Premier League managers, he is going to be better now, but he is probably still the weak link.
Yeah, I can't see Dash putting up with someone they don't trust. So
exactly. Like, put it this way: like, it'd have been out on his ear by now if he weren't good enough. Yeah. Or if Dash didn't think he weren't good enough, should I say? Because I don't think he is. All you have to do is look at Ben Gibson. I know that were a different sort of thing, like attitude and sort of like personality clashes and stuff. But all you have to do there, and that's another thing that has annoyed me a bit more recently. Not that he's done anything wrong again as Ben Gibson and stuff, but the fact that he's now not here. This could have been the perfect time for him to come in and be like, "There you go, Sean. That's why I should be playing next season."
No, yeah, I agree, mate, and I'm gutted for Ben, because I'd like to have seen him have his moment in a Burnley shirt and get his sort of run of games and fight for that shirt for next season even, and put Ben under some pressure, because obviously who doesn't want the top players performing at the top all the time?
Exactly.
But unfortunately it didn't happen, and we've got to move forward from it, and this is just more proof that the transfer window next is ridiculously tough, and we need some players.
It's so important now. Hopefully we don't lose anybody. If we lose people, it's going to become ridiculous. It's ridiculous as it is. If we lose any of the main three, Pope, Tarky or Dwight, it is literally impossible.
Just off the top of my head, we need 5 players, right? Just off the top of my head, I'm not counting. My fear is you're going to have to sell 1 to budget the 5.
So then you're going to need 7 players.
So then, 6.
Well, yeah, but 7, because they're going to that big of a miss. You're going to need to bring 2 in just to make up for it. If you sell, for example, if you sell Tarky for 30, 40 million, I don't think you just sign 1 central defender, do you? I think you sign 2.
No, but you're going to sign. You've got to sign that second player that's been at like Brentford, done well, when he's going to sit on bench like Tarky did, and for a year and wait his time. You can't. We've proven now that we're not that big of a club yet to keep someone happy that's come from a first team top end Championship from bottom end of the Premier League at the time we were trying to sign him, if you remember. we're not that big of a club to keep these type of people happy. Joe Hart, another one.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I think there'll be cases where different sort of attitudes and different sort of cases handled differently might end up being different. Obviously, I think Tarky waited his time. Granted, he only had to wait a year, to be fair, before Keane left. Whereas we're getting into the second season for Ben now. But you do need these players. You do need a Kevin Long in your side who is happy to sit on the bench and is happy to earn a wage and wait his turn and do it that way. But you also need people that are banging on the door as well. But you need to find that right balance, and obviously we didn't get it right then.
Well, so Peacock Farrell is another example, and I think we need to sort of like look at that market as well as investing in the first choice setup. Yeah,
I think we're going to have to need. Yeah, definitely, we need to definitely bring in 2 or 3 first teamers, I think, or people on the fringe at least, and then. Yeah, you're going to need to bring in a young, hungry central defender just for if Tarky leaves at the end of next season, and maybe a winger as well, who you know is going to be decent enough in about a season if Dwight leaves. Obviously, we've got the keeper covered if Poppy leaves next season.
We need a young winger, don't we? Like you said, because Brady's probably got this season left.
We only offered him in a year, and I can't understand how he won't be here next year.
McNeil, you could probably see moving within this summer, hopefully not, but maybe next summer if not. So yeah, you are right. We do need a young winger that's ready to come through, but we don't know who's in the ranks either. I don't actually have a clue.
No, well, it's a good little segue that, because the news broke today that the academy was actually given Category 1 status, or Category A, whatever it is. I don't know what the actual terminology is.
That, isn't it?
But that is the highest it can be. That is literally the highest it can be. So that just goes. So they are now level with the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal. It is Category 1, which I believe also means that next season our under-23s will be in the Johnson's Page Trophy, whatever it's called now these days. Yeah.
I don't know that. I do know there's a lot of other things that benefits, and I can't list them because I don't have them to hand. But there's silly benefits, like you get funding for this, you get X for that, and you get to compete in the Premier League 1 and Premier League 2 or whatever things they are. There's a lot of benefits from it, but it's something that I know the academy from cutting area staff and stuff, they've been working at for more than a couple of years now. So the reason the complex was done to the level it's been done at is to achieve this, because it brings in jobs for the town and all the way down to kids getting better development. It's a massive actual impact on the town, this.
Yeah, exactly. So well done to Burnley for that. I know it's a bit of an admin nightmare, I believe. There was someone saying on Twitter today. It's not just you're having to have good facilities and good coaches and good technically gifted kids in the academy. It's a lot of admin stuff getting right, and that can take a couple of years, as you say, to get right. But just before we wrap up, because I do have to set off for work in a couple of minutes, I know we briefly mentioned the West Ham game, and that was a bigger game for them than us, but what sort of game are you expecting, and what sort of result are you expecting?
Do you know what I mean? I'm expecting us to be under the cosh a little bit. Like you said, an animal fighting for its life is a different kind of animal, and I do expect it to be scrappy. I do expect them to come at us. But I've seen it before with West Ham, and again, it depends what side turns up, maybe, which is such a cop-out answer, but like you can turn them over 3-0 and you can get turned over 3-0, and that's my fear.
Yeah, I think for me, I am 100% confident that West Ham will stay up, because if you look at their fixtures, they've got Burnley at home, which they will look at and say we can win this.
3 points, yeah.
There's Norwich. I don't know where all these games are, but they've got to play Norwich, they've got to play Bournemouth, and they've got to play another team down. I think they've got 5 games left after us. They're all teams in and around them and Man United. So they've got 4 games after us where they will probably win. Or they'll win 3 of them or whatever. Or even if they win 2 of them, they're safe. I think because of the amount of points that they've got. And so I can't see West Ham getting relegated, to be honest. They've got too many winnable fixtures, including ours. They'll see that. But I the point I'm going to make is I think that they won't be looking at Burnley and saying must win. I think they'll have their eyes on the games coming up, thinking they're the must win one. So maybe they might just take the foot off the gas a little bit for the Burnley game. I don't think they'll risk Haller, because as I said, Haller is currently sort of like rumoured to be injured. I think if it were a massive game, or if we were Bournemouth or we were down there, for example, I think they'd risk him against us. But I think they might rest a couple of players maybe, and not risk the players that might be injured, and look more to these games that they've got coming up. So Having said that, I'm still going to do what you do and sit on the fence. Mark Hamill's going to be fuming. He hates it when we sit on the fence, but I'm going to go 1-1. I know I say 1-1 pretty much every damn game at the minute these days,
game.
but because I'd always take a point every away game.
Exactly.
Apart from maybe Norwich, which we're still going to play, I think, as well, aren't we?
I personally think if we want to compete for Europe next season and we don't win this game, it's a serious doubt for me. It's a massive marker in our season. And if you are a top 7 club playing a bottom relegation 15 downwards, any other top 7 club will be saying that they will win it. You put them on your bets, you do everything, and then unfortunately we don't really have that sort of thing. So if we want to finish in the top 7, top 8, this is the kind of game we need to sort of turn them over and say this is us.
So what's your score prediction then?
Yeah, it's an hard one. I'm really struggling with it, but I'm gonna hope, and I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna say we'll do it. That's a 2-1.
2-1 to the Clarets. I'm going 1-1. But thank you, Simon. Anything you want to add before I wrap up and move the podcast along?
No, thanks for having me, and hopefully next week we can be a bit more comfortable. I am sorry I'm moving a lot, but my fucking legs are on fire.
Absolutely on fire. Well, it's one of them. Like next time you will be at hostel, so we'll definitely be at home. It's just now we've got to work out how to do the VODCasts actually together on the video, so that should be interesting. So hopefully when you do come out this week, then we can get that sorted pretty quick. But I look ahead now to the West Ham game with West Ham fan and the host of Pitch Sport podcast, PitchCast, Paul Schofield. Right, so now it's time to introduce Paul from Pitch Sport and the host of the PitchCast and obviously West Ham fan because we're going to do some chatting about West Ham. But thank you for coming on, Paul.
Mate, thanks for having me. It's perfect.
Yeah, happy days. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for coming on, like I say. But obviously, you are from Pitch Sport, as I mentioned. So I just want to chat about that first before we get into the Burnley West Ham things. Obviously, I know a lot of our listeners have downloaded it. A lot of people do get in touch and say, this is my team on the Pitch Sport app and this is my prediction on the Pitch Sport app. Shout out to Neil, who does it every single week without fail and always messages me about it. I always say to Neil, thank you for keeping Pitch Sport happy for us, mate. He's the one that's doing it for us. But to those of us that haven't downloaded, to those of them that haven't downloaded, just sort of like give people an insight into what Pitch Sport actually is.
Yeah, so it's a fan engagement app, basically. Since it's, what are we now, 3rd season. Obviously, this one's a bit trickier with the disruptions and everything else that's gone on. So it's about gathering the fans' opinions. Like we would go, I'm a season ticket holder at West Ham. We'd go to the pub before the game. We'd talk about the team that we'd like to see. We'd talk about what result we thought we were going to get, all of that stuff. And all of that is genuine fan data. It's actually an opinion, right? So the general thought process for us when we launched the app was to gather some of that data that typically would stay in the pub or on the concourse and all that stuff, and actually make something of it rather than it just remaining an opinion of my opinion with 5 of my mates over there and 5 guys over there. So we came up with it. You before the game, you pick your team and your formation, predict the score, tell it where you're watching, like if you're watching it in the ground, if we're allowed. If you're watching it live at home, which most people now are, with all the live games, and obviously as a collective group of West Ham, Burnley, whoever else it is, you get a picture as to what the average team that people want to see versus what Sean Dyche or David Moyes actually picks. Let's start with David Moyes because he's probably a little bit more controversial. Burnley tend to, with a fit squad, you would probably see a few deviations maybe at the back, but generally the spine of the team it kind of picks itself, right, and the way that they play. Whereas West Ham, it's an absolute disaster area. We've got a squad. It's a massive squad. There's loads of people who are on the fringes. We've got youngsters coming through and then they get loaned out. We've got youngsters playing in the under-23s that people think should be in the starting lineup. We don't play strikers when we've got fit strikers. We play Antonio, just stuff like that. And then after the game, when you know you've watched it, pick your man of the match, rate the manager, the performance, the atmosphere when we're at the ground, and also the referee. So that's the referee one is always quite fun. 9 times out of 10, you'll see Burnley fans up here and West Ham fans down here. If there's a contentious issue with VAR and whatever else, which you're guaranteed to get nowadays. So, and that was and so obviously all of that comes together. So then we launched the podcast to deliver those stats back, and then we built a relationship, or in the process of building relationships with specific fan casts like yourself, for you guys to deliver those stats back as well, and for you guys to get involved. And I just think it came out really, the big one that really drove us to know that we could do this was when West Ham had Adrian and Darren Randolph vying for the number 1 shirt. Yeah. And I'd stand on the train station platform, and all the guys standing around and people you don't know, and you know, it's like the team sheet comes out an hour before, and the team sheet would come out and everyone would groan and be like, oh, he's picked him again, and everyone's head would go down and everyone would be talking about it on the train. So I was like, if every single person at West Ham who goes to West Ham thinks that Darren Randolph should be in the side rather than Adrian, then why are we like? How's the manager not recognising that? And how's he? And it actually worked out. Generally, the manager was about 3 steps behind some of the fan base. The fan base would make the selection change earlier than the manager did. And then so we've just built the app from there, really. It's going well, like I say, 3rd season. Got a lot more people involved, thanks to you guys, certainly for Burnley and other clubs. Still lots of work to do. And then building into the Championship as well.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because we was just saying off camera, weren't we? Like, there are obviously other places where people can put their opinions across, i.e. obviously the main one's Twitter. But I found that the people on pitch, and it's good to get, obviously, because you tag us in the stats and stuff on social media, and I follow the page anyway, your pages anyway, so I do see the stats of other clubs come through. But it's interesting to see the stats of other clubs come through. Obviously, like I said, you tagged us in a post this week which said it had the Burnley stats in it and the Sheffield United stats in it, and then their opinions and things like that. So it's interesting to get them, because when you go on Twitter and you ask an opposition fan base for their opinion, the majority of your time you're just bombarded with grief and abuse and stuff like that. But obviously you don't get that on pitch, do you?
No, you don't. It's that, like you say, the bias comes out of it, right? Because you're actually picking it. You're not picking it because you're not saying, like you say, if you go up against Palace, you're going to have a lot of opinion around Wilf Zaha and all that sort of stuff, and the football rivalry comes out. Whereas if you're just picking that team because it's the team that you want to see, and then a third party can take the bias out of it, create a genuine stat from opinions of a fan base, and then come back to it and say, right, actually, fine. You're always going to have like a spectrum where you get militant fans one side and like just the guys the armchair fan, if you like, from the other. And that's what you want to try and soften those and bring it into the middle so that you get a consensus effectively. And like Twitter can be pretty vile when it wants to be.
Oh God.
Instagram's a much nicer place to exist, I think. There's a general feel, but you do, I think the stats are there and they're irrefutable, effectively. What you can't deny them because they are fan-driven stats from that club. And if you set them up against the other side, like you say, if I stand in a pub with a Sheffield United fan and just before a game, I'm not gonna have an honest conversation with him. I'm going to have a biased discussion with him, probably.
Yeah, it's good though. Like I said, I do enjoy using it, and I said off camera as well. Thank you to reaching out for TurfCast and stuff this year, because it's given me a different sort of it's given me sort of different aspect and yeah, thank you, and a different sort of aspect in looking at fans' opinions and stuff, and without getting like all the militants, like you say, and all the grief and stuff. So if you haven't already, please go and download PitchSport. It's available on the App Store and the Google Play Store as well, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely, free of charge.
Free of charge, of course. I know a lot of our fans have downloaded it, but I presume there's probably still a few that haven't, or if you're new here, then we are big fans of PitchSport, so please go and download it now. We'll move on to the football, though, because obviously that's the main reason why I've got you here. Obviously, we follow you on social media, so I see a lot of West Ham tweets and stuff, mainly like, oh, for God's sake, West Ham have lost again, because that's how this season's sort of gone so far, hasn't it? But just talk to me about the season so far, then, because it's... I know, I think fans of other clubs say this every single year. West Ham have a team and a fan base and a stadium that shouldn't be where they are, and obviously that's why you moved to the London Stadium, to push on, to be pushing for Europe and things like that. But now I'm sat here as a Burnley fan pushing for Europe, whereas you're sat there as a West Ham fan, sort of like, this game's a lot bigger for you, isn't it? But let's just, before we talk about the game, let's just talk about how your season's gone so far, because I'm always surprised to see West Ham where they are.
I think everyone would say the same, to be honest. I mean, it's been a strange period of time since we moved from Upton Park. Like the identity of the club. A lot of people feel like the identity was at the ground and the local area. We were that area, right? So since we moved from Upton Park, businesses have gone under, pubs have shut, and it was sad, and there were a lot of promises made by our board about that move, and those a lot of those haven't been delivered on. So we're still waiting for next level football. We're still waiting for Champions League and all that stuff. So I think a lot of the issues that we're seeing right now stem from that move. We had 2 years of very negative crowd. The atmosphere was pretty hostile. As soon as the team started losing, it was vile. We obviously had the well-documented the marches, which are ongoing. We've had another 2, I think, this year. There's a real desire among the fans that we want to see a new board, effectively, new ownership.
Yeah.
Now, whether that comes about or not, then it's up for discussion. Whether you believe that the whole board is, everyone's got their own opinion. The general feel is that David Gold is a nice guy. I don't know. It's either just before 80 or he's now 80. So there's no spring chicken.
Yeah.
David Sullivan has this kind of wheeler dealer. He wants to be involved in all of the transfers that we do. Speaks to, well, the rumour has it, he only speaks to 3 agents. So you go through all of our signings, they're only ever from 3 agents. That's interesting. Which you're going to limit your transfer activity, and especially when you're not. He's been a football owner for years and years and years, right? He did Birmingham and what have you. So I'm not one who thinks that the board should get involved in transfer activity. You're there to run the football club, not for footballing matters. And then we've got Karen Brady, who, there's a lot of people who have serious opinions and what have you about her. So this season felt like obviously we had Pellegrini in. Whether people wanted to see Bilic go or not, I think there was a lot of people wanting that, but there's also now a lot of hindsight that's being applied and thinking, well, the grass maybe not always greener.
Yeah.
Pellegrini came in with his team, put in a football director. Again, the transfer activity, you kind of saw Felipe Anderson come in the door, people like that, made some big signings, big statement signings, and they just haven't, other than Issa Diop, I would say, we haven't really had that kind of signing that's bedded in and really changed the football team. We've had Declan Rice come through, who's obviously making a big impact. So I think this season was really about getting off to a good start. You know, it's like if you after 5 games, if you've not got good results in those 5 games, it sets the tone. The crowd get on your back because everyone goes back to football in late August with massive expectation and really like genuine excitement, and then it just gets smashed out of you over 5 games of getting beaten up. Yeah. Then you think, oh, it's going to be another one of those seasons, and then you've got the ground doesn't have that atmosphere anymore where you can turn a game around really, and then the players just lost confidence. I think a lot of them didn't turn up. We lost games that we shouldn't have lost. I think I saw a stat yesterday during the game. We are top of the league when it comes to losing or dropping points from winning positions, which I think after yesterday is now 24 or something like that. Yeah. So I mean, if you concentrate in games that you start winning, and you close them out, then we're not in this position. We're not even worried about it. We're probably talking about this game that's coming up on Wednesday and saying, between you and I, saying, oh well, it's a bit of a playoff game again for potentially going into Europe. And actually, what it is now is it's a game that West Ham need to win to stay in the league, really. So yeah, you can point the fingers at a lot of places. Fabianski's injury was huge. Yeah, we brought in Roberto, obviously, and he's just like, I mean, I'm 5'7", 5'7.5", and I probably could have done a better job than he did in those games. He went missing in key moments. We conceded goals because of him. Yeah. And we lost games because of him, and we went on a really bad run, a very bad part of the season. So Fabianski's injury would be a big part. Not having the strength in depth in certain positions. So Aaron Cresswell had a few very poor games, but we don't necessarily have a backup left back. People would probably say Masuaku, but he's probably developed himself into a winger rather than a left back. So yeah, just clumsy errors that I put down to attitude, application, really, without wanting to cane the guys, because since lockdown we've come back and we look a better football team all of a sudden again. Look like they're playing with a bit of confidence, and you beat Chelsea. Obviously, that changes the atmosphere among the fans massively. Everyone's suddenly a little bit more optimistic. It's always nice to beat them. And then you get a draw at St James's Park. I think everyone will always accept that that's a decent result. And then the games are coming thick and fast now, right? So it's on Wednesday night with you guys.
Yeah, just obviously it brings it on nicely. You just mentioned the last 2 games there, though. Obviously, you scored 3 against Chelsea, then scored 2 against Newcastle, so you scored 5 in your last 2. However, you've also conceded 4 in your last 2. And I think that you mentioned Fabianski, the injury to him there as well. But I think this sort of thing sort of like highlights where West Ham's issues are and what we can look to on Wednesday. I know I said Saturday then. On Wednesday to try and exploit. I think we can score against you. I think also you'll be confident of scoring as well. So Burnley could be involved in sort of like a high scoring game here. But what do you feel like going ahead then, looking ahead to this game then? Do you think it's going to be sort of like some more issues at the back for you or whatever? Because I know that Haller's injured as well. I believe he might not play on Wednesday, so that might take some sting out of it for you guys.
Yeah. So we had we've got Anderson and Haller as the two they're the 2 injuries we're carrying at the minute. Haller was touch and go for the Newcastle game. Ordinarily, you'd probably have a week sit from the Newcastle game through to the next one. So I haven't really looked into whether we think he's going to be there or not. I think he might be on the bench. I don't imagine that after the game against Newcastle, I don't imagine that he'll rush him into the starting 11. The games are coming thick and fast, and you just can't risk someone picking that injury up again or picking up another one. I think especially when we're scoring goals. You look at it and you think, stick him on the bench. If we need to change the way we're playing a little bit, then he's an option, right?
Obviously, we're in a similar position as well than you guys. You've got 2 big injuries, as you say, at the minute. The 2 ones that you're not sort of sure in the previous game, but we've got obviously pretty much about 6 of the current first team is missing as well, and one of them left as well in Jeff Hendrick, obviously not tying down the contract as well. But Brownhill's come in and done well, so that one's a different debate. But it's another sort of like issue that this that lockdown has created, hasn't it? Because now the games are coming thick and fast, like you say, which obviously means the podcasts are coming thick and fast, so it's good for us and our listenership. But it's bad. It's bad for the footballers, because the Burnley players are dropping like absolute flies, and as you say, you've got a couple of injuries as well. So it's sort of like another sort of like thing to deal with, isn't it?
Of course it is, absolutely. I mean, and it's when it comes into a big squad, doesn't it? You look at the Liverpool squad. You look at, and also you can make 5 subs, I guess now, which. Love it or hate it, or it's a bit weird. But yeah, you have to look at your bench and think, okay, what's the difference between Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, and some of the others, and probably the rest of the league? You look through it and you say, right, we just don't have the quality sitting on the bench throughout. Everyone's got that one player who you think he's got half a chance. He can come on and change the game, but it's playing into the hands of the big football clubs who carry the Champions League squads, the Man Cities, the Man U's. That, like, you look at their benches and you think, you know what, Ole Gunnar, you can turn around and look at his bench and think, I've got 5 changes there, so he can change up nearly half his starting 11 and bring fresh legs into a game, and whether that's to close it out or to go chasing it one way or the other, you can do it. You look at you think David Moyes turns around and he goes, I've got 3, maybe 2, depending on injuries. And if you're Sean Dyche, probably at the minute you're looking around going, I might have 1.
I don't have anything.
It's just, I mean, he's talked. I think I've seen a couple of his interviews, and he's obviously heard a few through lockdown and whatever. And there was a lot made of the contract situation at Burnley with the players that you had coming out of contract and whether they were going to extend and whatever. And obviously you didn't. I was going to ask you, kind of like, out of the players that walked out the door, which one is, like, which are the 2 that you think that we really needed them to stay?
Out of the 2 that walked out the door, I'd have said, I think we did something on the podcast before all of this, and we would have only kept both me and Simon. Sorry, me and Simon actually were different on opinions, but I would have kept Bardsley, who we did keep, and Jeff Hendrick. He would have just kept Jeff Hendrick. Now, of the 2 that's left, obviously Jeff Hendrick, because Jeff Hendrick was frustrating at times, and I've said this on the podcast many times. People who listen to the podcast will know I found Jeff Hendrick frustrating, but he was so versatile, and he could play pretty much anywhere across the midfield or even behind the strikers. So if we had injuries, which we always do in Robbie Brady and Jeff Hendrick, they've played barely anything all season, and last season as well. So it was good to bring in for injuries and stuff, no matter how frustrating he was. Having said that, Brownhill has come in and stepped up and deputised brilliantly, and come in for Jeff Hendrick brilliantly. But at the time, I would have said keep him. Maybe not so much now, but I would have preferred him to stay again for the versatility and the options. And Aaron Lennon as well. Again, he didn't have many good games in a Burnley shirt. You could probably count him on one hand. However, he was always good to bring off the bench because of his pace. He could stretch a game. So all of a sudden, we go from sitting back to him running upfield and us trying to get it up to him, or him dribbling with the ball and getting us 30, 40 yards up the pitch. So for me, I'd choose them 2. Definitely, but it's it was a shame to see him leave. Joe Hart, I think that's fine. I'm fine with him leaving. Lennon, I'm mainly fine with him leaving, should I say? But I would have preferred to have him as an option. But I believe he was on obviously quite a decent wage as well, so it frees stuff up as well. But yeah, I think Joe Hart, like I said, I'm not too fussed, and we have a decent enough keeper in Pope, and obviously now you've got Bailey, Peacock, Farrell coming off the bench as well. So yeah, it were a shame, and obviously Dyche is very disappointed with the way that it was handled and stuff. But it's one of them. Like, we had Andy Jones from The Athletic on the podcast last week, who did reveal that Jeff Hendrick was actually offered improved terms back in October, Now, a lot of people have said the reason why he's left is because we didn't offer him improved terms, and we in fact offered him a lesser contract. That may or may not be the case after lockdown, but we offered him improved terms back in October, and he turned that down. So I think the signs were there from the start that he didn't really want to stay for whatever reason. But hopefully, we'll get him on the podcast one day, and we'll find out why. But I haven't reached out to him yet. I haven't reached out to him yet, so people don't get excited, please. But let's look. Sorry, go on.
I've got some of the. I was just looking at like you say, some of the selection stats, and it's Brownhill that's come in effectively for Hendrick, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean. So I think in the last round, he was 100% of Burnley fans picked him.
Yeah.
So I mean,
there's not many other people that we can actually have, to be fair.
Sure. Yeah. I was looking down that and thinking, no, there's not really, is there?
Because Jack Court was out in the last game
Pope,
as well.
Rodriguez, Tarkowski, Taylor, Westwood. They're all picked by everybody.
Yeah.
Ben Mee. I mean. There you get the good thing about it from your perspective is the average ratings on the app from Burnley fans is are really good. Like Dyche is consistently 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
The team consistently gets 8 out of 10. It's in a good place, right? Burnley Football Club. Fine. You look at it and you go, it is operating on probably the bare minimum right now, but it's like you said off air, like just before we came on. What is it? 5 seasons in the Prem?
It will be next season, and it's going to be 8 out of the last 10 next season as well.
8 out of 10, 2 in. Well, depending on what happens now, you've been in the Europa League, just gone, right?
Yeah.
Now, whether you want, it'd be another one last question from me for you would be: are you actually happy with this run for Europa, or are you happy to come 9th?
I'd be happy either way. I'd rather finish in Europa League. Obviously, I don't get the fans that say, "Oh, let's just finish 17th every season." No, no.
Sure.
You want to achieve things. What's the point of being in the Premier League if you're just going to finish 17th? No, let's try and achieve things. Let's try and win a trophy. No Burnley fan has ever seen. Well, obviously the older ones will, but no Burnley fan of my generation has seen us win any silverware. I want to see him win the League Cup. I want to see him win the FA Cup, because I've never really... I want to see him win a major trophy. I want to see him play in Europe. I went to Aberdeen last time out. It were absolutely brilliant. Went with my friends, absolutely class. I loved it. The people in Aberdeen were fantastic. I think I bought about 3 beers all weekend because Aberdeen fans just kept buying me a beer because they saw my Burnley shirt, so they buy me a beer. It was fantastic. And I went over to Olympiacos. Not as friendly, I'll be honest. But it was good to go out there with thousands of Burnley fans. And obviously, I do follow England. Again, we're saying off air that I do follow England. I like going to England away games. And it was good to do that with my club, a club that when I start supporting them, I don't want to get all back in my day, but when I start supporting them, they're in, I'm 32 now, so when I was born, they're in Division 4, but when I really start supporting them, they're in Division 2 and fighting with teams like Preston, North End and Gillingham to get promoted to Division 1 and stuff like that, and getting beat by Wrexham and stuff like that, and getting beat by Grimsby 6-5 and stuff like that. So obviously I'm happy to be in the Premier League, of course I am, but we need to constantly improve, and you need to constantly... What's the point in being in the Premier League and not striving to achieve the best that you can achieve? I understand why fans don't want it, but I don't agree with it, because obviously last time, as you said, it did have quite a detrimental effect. You mentioned it perfectly earlier about you talking about West Ham season, the first 5 games. It puts everyone in a bad mood and stuff like that, and then all the fans are anxious, so then the fans get on your back. That's exactly what happened with us last season. We started off the season really, really poor because of the Europa League. We were losing at places like Fulham, losing at newly promoted sides at the time like Wolves, which in the end weren't that bad of a result, but we were losing a lot of games early on, which in comparison to the season before, where we did finish 7th, we beat Chelsea on the opening day of the season at Chelsea, the Premier League champions at the time, and it just sets the tone, like you say. And then next thing we're 7th, and we're beating Leicester to secure Europa League football with a few games left at Turf Moor. Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, for me, definitely, I don't see the point in being in the Premier League if you don't want to constantly drive and then push into the Europa League. For me.
Yeah, I think there's. Yeah, I'd agree with it. We've had a similar thing in a couple of seasons where we finished 6th, 7th probably, or we've got in 1 year on the fair play thing.
Yeah,
it elongates the season. In a normal situation, what are we now? The first week of July. you're looking at it and you go, if you were qualified for the early stages of Europa, you'd be thinking, right, we've got 2 weeks until the first game.
Yeah.
And it does weigh heavily on the squad. It's absolutely. I don't think that you can deny that you need numbers to make it tilt at that without sacrificing things like the FA Cup and the League Cup. So yeah, I totally agree. Everyone wants their team to progress, but what from my perspective now, from a West Ham fan, is if we stay in the league, which I'm hopeful that the last 2 results indicate that we've got a chance to do that. Mm. If we stay in the league, I want to see David Moyes, and this is a very unpopular opinion, right? And it's one that I've mulled over a lot, but I want to see David Moyes given the opportunity over a course of 2 seasons to put his mark on that football club.
Yeah.
West Ham have not done what Burnley have done and dedicated their time and their effort and their resource to one manager. They've thrown a few quid here and there, specifically at managers, but then given them like 2 marquee signings each. And they've come in, Pellegrini came in, big name, paid absolute vast sums of cash, but didn't do it. Didn't have the tactics. Didn't produce what everyone hoped he would.
Yeah.
Bilic did a great job. The last season at Upton Park was the best season I can remember. It was phenomenal. The atmosphere was amazing. And then we've gone back to Moyes. Keeps us in the league. He had January and he signed Thomas Souček and Jared Bowen.
Yeah.
Who, for me right now, look like 2 of the best signings we've made in a long time. Mm-hmm. With Fornals as well, looks a good player.
Bowen does look nice.
Bowen is direct. That's the thing. Like, you have to. He's fast. He can play in a variety of different positions as well. So he looks like a good football player. And we need players like that. So if that's going to be the transfer strategy from David Moyes, then I'll back that. And I'll give him 2 years to bring footballers in who want to play for the football club. The thing about Felipe Anderson for me is that he doesn't necessarily want to play at the football club. Dimitri Payet didn't, Arnautovic didn't, and they walked out their door and they did massive damage to the squad the way that those 2 guys left the football club. Felipe Anderson could potentially do that, but he's not good enough. So you might find that he just gets moved on.
Yeah.
We just need to go back and find an identity for our football team, and I think David Moyes might be the guy. Tactically, not the best. Not going to lie, he's not the most. A lot of people criticise his plan, the lack of a plan B. But if you get to a point where our football club over the next 2 years goes from a relegation scrap now to next season finishing 12th, and then the season after that finishing or being top 10, or looking to be in the top 10, then you start thinking, right, we're making progress and we're making it in the right way. But what I wouldn't want to do is go, oh yeah, we've had a mediocre to solid season next year, and then somehow just jump into a Europa League place, because I don't think our squad would be capable of being able to play that amount of games. So yeah, for me, it's steady progression.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because you talked about identity there. Everyone knows Burnley's identity. Everyone knows what Burnley's going to do. A lot of people will choose to criticise it for whatever reason. That's on them. But it's a lot of clubs that don't have an identity will look at clubs like Burnley and say, they won't necessarily say, I wish we had that identity, but they look at us and the way that we've done it and say, that's fantastic. They've got their identity. They've got their manager, who's been here for 7 years now, longest serving manager in my lifetime, beating Stan Turner, who was about 6.5 years. But for me, stability breeds success, and all you have to do is look at Burnley, look at Manchester United to a lesser extent. They've stuck with Ole through a lot. He's just sort of picking results up now. I will never understand teams or fans like Watford, for example, who just constantly chop and change the manager. Like, how is that ever going to work? I know Swansea did it for a few years, but they eventually fell. But they kept doing it, then getting that new manager bounce, then it'd fade. New manager bounce, then it'd fade. So they thought that was the way to do it. But eventually, you are just going to drop out the table anyway.
Correct. I mean, you look at Bolton, look at Charlton, two really good examples, and Villa probably to an extent. You look at those football clubs and you think, right, Charlton were happily mid-table, Prem type side. They were difficult to beat. They produced good players. They had the good crop of players that came through that football club and were moved on. And that's not a bad business model for a football club to stay mid-table in the Prem. But they got fed up of being mid-table in the Premiership.
Yeah.
So they tried to change it up. And they are now suffering the consequences of that. Charlton are hopefully going to stay in the league. Bolton's demise has been well documented.
Yeah.
You have to be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah, 100%. Look, I know I don't like swearing on the podcast, but Blackburn's another example of that as well. When Venky's came in, the first thing they did, or one of the first things they did, was get rid of Sam Allardyce and appointed Steve Keane. Like, how can anybody? I know they're not footballing people, but even from a business point of view, how could you ever think that was a good idea? I don't understand why some owners buy football clubs, because it's not necessarily a profitable idea, and yet they come in and not knowing anything about football, and then making bad football decisions, which are also bad business decisions. Honestly, I don't understand it sometimes. I don't understand it.
Not at all.
We'll get to the game.
Will Dyche stay?
Sorry, go on.
Is Sean Dyche going to stay?
Yeah, I'd say so. I've spoken to two journalists, Alex James from Lancs Live, Andy Jones from The Athletic. I'd be surprised if he left to be unemployed. He said, I know it's not real unemployment, being honest, to not be a manager. If Palace sacked Hodgson, then I'd start worrying. There's only two teams that worry me, Palace and Everton.
Okay.
They're the two teams that worry me, because I can't see West Ham fans wanting him. You personally might, but I can't see the majority of West Ham fans wanting him, so they don't worry me. The majority of Everton fans have never wanted him, but it's just one of them clubs that I look at and think, yeah, that is the next step up. That is definitely a step up from Burnley in terms of size, in terms of stability, in terms of stature and stuff, in terms of where they are in the league and things like that, or what they can achieve. West Ham fan is similar to that, in similar size to Everton to me, but again, it's just because of the negativity that surrounds West Ham a lot, and the board. I can't see him going there. Palace, if they lose at Hodgson, then yeah, I will worry this. I know a few Palace fans have started saying Hodgson out. It might just be the militant few, like you said earlier. But if he leaves, I will be worried. And Villa as well recently. But if they go down, there's no chance. If they go down, which I think they will, he's not going to Championship to manage Villa. No chance.
No, I agree. I think the Palace thing's an interesting one. There is a strong case there for be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
They dodged a bullet with Frank de Boer. Because he came in and they were dire. They were terrible. And the board, they acted quickly and decisively and saved their football club status in the Premier League, I think. Yeah. Now, I was talking to one of the guys at Back of the Nest, which is one of our partners for
recently had them on this podcast as well.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was invited onto his podcast. Sorry, my mistake. I was invited onto his podcast.
Good guys actually, and they've got mixed views about the Hodgson thing. They understand that he can't be manager for more than maybe another year. So I was talking to one of them the other day, and we were talking about a succession planning type thing. It was a guy on their account actually. I was saying what you would love to see potentially for Palace is for them to bring. They really want that young, forward-thinking manager next. Yeah. So the only way, the way I see it, really is like leave Hodgson where he is for a year, but bring someone in underneath him as his assistant. They get to know the football club culture. They understand what his culture has been, how the players react to it, and then he can put his mark on it after. But we both came to the conclusion that it's just not how football works animore. No. There's no young upcoming manager going, I'm not going to be an assistant manager for a year. He's not going to do it. I think Ancelotti at Everton is enough. for them. I don't think they're going to change that for Dyche. Sean Dyche. We would, I think. There's a lot of West Ham fans that would want to see him. Listen up. If David Moyes doesn't keep us in the Premier League, then I'd love to see Sean come to us. But he's not going to do that again because we're not going to be in the Prem.
Yeah, I can't see him going to the Championship, even for a bigger club like Villa or West Ham.
No, I don't see it. So I think as long as the Burnley board, he's made it very clear to the Burnley board what he expects, clearly.
Yeah.
And I don't think you, as a Burnley board member, you could deny him that. So either they haven't got the funds to pony up and take his transfer activity up a notch, and that just says to you guys as Burnley fans, well, we are where we are then, and we probably are overachieving, and that's we've got to the level which you have to embrace, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If it's 6 years between now and in 6 years' time, you come between let's say 9th or 8th in the Premier League and 13th. If there isn't the funding at the club to do it, then that's probably a successful 6 years, right?
If we're still in the Premier League in 6 years' time, I'll be absolutely buzzing. I'll finish 17th. I know I've just gone about how I don't want to finish 17th every year. But if we're still in the Premier League in 6 years' time, I'd take 17th every single time, staying up on the final day of the season. But another point about Sean Dyche is, at Burnley, he controls everything. He makes the transfers, no one puts in. Obviously, he doesn't control the funds that he gets. No manager does that. But he controls absolutely everything in terms of transfers, in terms of teams. It was even him that pushed for the new training facility, and obviously we then built this multi-million-pound training facility. It is essentially now the club that Sean built. And a lot of Burnley fans always sort of like say to him, well, not to him, but on social medias and stuff, like, you won't get that anywhere else, Sean. Like, he wouldn't get it at West Ham, for example.
100% not.
And he's the highest earner at Burnley Football Club as well, on £75,000 a week. No player earns that. I think the highest players are around 50,000, 55,000, which is a staggering amount of money for us. Like, I'd have never thought Burnley would be playing anything like that when I was younger. I mean, to every other Premier League club, that's absolutely nothing. Like, most Premier League clubs, Bournemouth, for example, have about 3 or 4 players on over £100,000 a week. I think there's only Norwich that probably have a smaller wage bill than us. Maybe Watford, but again, probably not, because that's why Andre Gray left, to go and earn more money at a club like Watford. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's interesting to get your sort of like views on Dyche and things like that, and West Ham as well. But let's have a look at the game on Wednesday then. It's a bigger game for you than it is for us. A lot of people still saying, we can still get Europa League. My dad keeps texting me saying things like, we need to beat West Ham now if we want to get Europa League and stuff. But it's one of them, like, we don't have any players. We might as well, for the first time since lockdown against Sheffield United, we actually named a full bench. But and for the last few games, we've had kids on the bench, we've had like 2 goalkeepers on the bench, and we've still not been able to name a full bench. But for the first time against Sheffield United, it shows how bad the injury crisis is. But it's one of them, like, yes, I would want to get to Europe, but if you beat us on Wednesday, I won't be losing any sleep over it.
Sure, yeah. I think for on that basis, in that case, it's like the Sheffield United game for you, I thought, was one of those where it was, don't lose it. Yeah. Because if you lost it, they'd have been out of reach. They're done. And from our perspective, that would have been ideal. Yeah. As many teams as we can play now that don't have anything to play for, the better. I think, it's every single. It's a massive football cliche, isn't it? But every single game that West Ham play from now to the end of the season, or until they're mathematically safe, is a cup final. So it's at our place. I think the team is probably benefiting from not having the crowd at home in these games, which is probably the opposite for Burnley. Yeah, I'm sure your guys will travel well, and I think it's got potential for being a really open football match. We, like you say, we're conceding goals. You're not. You've had successive? You had 2 1-0s, didn't you? And then a 1-0.
Let's forget about the Man City game and just talk about them 3.
You take all of those results. You can take those results out of the equation. We've got we've scored goals, but we've leaked them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It could be one of those where it's a really cagey 1-1 like you've just had, or it could be a Kevin Keegan 5-4. It's just hard to know.
I think if Ben Mee were playing,
I guess.
Yeah, a lot depends on whether Chris Wood can make it. A lot depends on whether, because obviously we should have been 3-0 up by the time Sheffield United scored yesterday. Obviously, time at recording, it's Monday yesterday. We should have been 3-0 up. Vidra had a chance that he should have buried, missed it, put it wide. Dwight had a chance that he should have buried, missed it, put it wide. So if we take them if we create chances, which by looking at the stats of how good Sheffield United are defensively compared to you, we should be creating just as many chances, if not more. And if these chances fall to Chris Wood, if he makes it, for example, then yes, we should be scoring some goals. However, on the other side of it, you're probably scoring more goals than Sheffield United at the minute. And obviously, Kevin Long has now come into the side, and Kevin Long is a championship defender at best. That's probably being generous. The fact that Ben Mee is missing is a massive, massive miss. Massive miss. So I think you can capitalise on that. Yeah, you can capitalise on that, definitely.
He's definitely out, is he?
He's out for the rest of the season.
He's gone.
As is Matt Lawton, and as is Jack Cork. So there's a lot of injuries at Burnley.
Okay. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how David Moyes takes care of McNeil.
Yeah.
If he's playing, how do we get him locked up? That would be potentially down to Declan Rice. And then it's a case of like how the Burnley defence manage who potentially they'll be playing against Antonio, how you manage Antonio, because he's a handful. He's big and strong. He's not the most cultured footballer, but he's effective. So yeah, I think injuries aside, we will try and probably be unchanged from the Newcastle-Chelsea game, which I like. I think that's the continuity factor, the getting used to playing together. If Ogbonna and Issa Diop can lock it up, then but listen, if we win, it's massive. I think if we get another 3 points, we win. We more or less guarantee our statuses in the Premier League. We've still got Norwich, Watford and Villa to play.
Very winnable games. You could end up finishing in the top half with them sort of games, to be fair.
Well, it's get safe.
Yeah.
Our goal difference. I was just looking. Our goal difference is significantly better. Watford and next, we've got -18, which in itself is an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
But Watford have got -23, Villa -26, and Bournemouth -27. So they always talk about that goal difference potentially being another point, right? So we need to make sure that we protect that. But ultimately, just 3 points, then move on to the next game. 3 points, move on to the next game. Don't get beaten. That's key.
Yeah.
Do not lose to any three of those teams, and then we can start talking about how we look forward to next year.
Yeah, well, obviously I've been saying how this game is so big for you compared to us, and I'll still stand by that. Obviously it is, but looking at the games that you've just mentioned, there's probably bigger games coming up for you. Like you could probably lose against us on Wednesday, and just be like, well, that's not irrelevant, but that we can forget about that and look to these next 3 games. If you do not lose them 3 games, you probably stay up. But if you win all 3 of them, you definitely stay up.
Yes, agreed. So we've got we've got you on Wednesday. Then the weekend we've got Norwich away. Then we've got Watford home, away at United, and then home to Villa on the last day.
Yeah, so even including the Burnley game there, like I hope the Burnley fans don't mind me saying this, but as West Ham fans, you'll be looking at the Burnley game and saying winnable. You'll be looking at the next game. So 4 out of them 5 games you can look at and say winnable. If you win 2 of them, you're safe. If you win 3 of them, you're definitely safe. If you win 4 of them, you probably go above us in league.
It's a funny one. Yeah, without a question. The Chelsea result was the big
massive
one.
Yeah.
It was like the beating Chelsea, taking 6 points off Chelsea this season was like the holy grail for West Ham fans.
Yeah.
It changed the mindset of everyone on Twitter, on like the lads that I talked to on WhatsApp and all that stuff. It's just gave the football club such a boost, and everyone needs that. You have to have that in this fight to stay in the league. you just haven't seen any of the other teams do anything like it. So the other teams are just not producing any sort of result. They haven't nicked anything. They haven't even threatened to, right? No. So the hope is that they maintain that form and we get a couple of wins and we can forget about it, move on.
Yeah, well, I remember I was on another podcast during lockdown or just before the football had restarted, and we were all talking about the relegation battle, and a lot of people were saying, "I think West Ham are going to go because they look poor." Now, I think I half agreed with them, but I've never had West Ham as one of my three to go down. But obviously, I agreed that you had been poor. But looking at the way you played after lockdown and the result, the 4 fixtures that you just mentioned out of the next 5, I think you've been more than okay. I wouldn't. Obviously, I'd be worried if I were a West Ham fan, but I was going to say to you now, I wouldn't even worry. You're definitely going to be safe for me. I think you're definitely going to stay up.
I'm not in a situation as a fan yet where I can say that out loud. But I understand. If you're looking at another club's fixtures and the way that the teams around them are playing, I can understand where someone might come up with that. But yeah, it's nothing. I mean, we're 4 points clear of the drop now, so that's Aston Villa or Bournemouth having to win 2 matches to catch us.
That's not happening as it is.
Just not sure they've. Yeah, I mean, maybe they can. One of them can beat us, but I just don't.
Yeah, there is that. Sure. Obviously, you're playing them, but I think Villa that's going to fall more into your hands. Yeah, I just Villa, Bournemouth especially. Bournemouth have looked absolutely terrible since coming back. That Newcastle defeat.
Just dire.
Terrible. Eddie Howe, I know he's done well in recent years, but I think he's finally been found out. For somebody that spends so much money and stuff as well as Bournemouth do, because everyone knows that Bournemouth have got a lot of money. I think he'll be leaving there in the summer. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But just before we wrap up, let's get some score predictions. Obviously, I'll let you go first.
Home win 2-1.
2-1. I'm going to go with a draw. I think I'll always take a draw away from home. I'd like to repeat what we did a couple of seasons ago, obviously, when it all kind of boiled over against, but all the negativity you were mentioning earlier.
That's
it
right,
was against Burnley when it all boiled over. And we were absolutely fantastic that day. It were on BT Sport.
I was at that game.
Yeah, I watched it here. It were on BT Sport, weren't it? We were fantastic. Ashley Barnes was class. We've missed him massively. We really have. We have missed him massively. But I'm going to go 1-1, another 1-1. I think either way, I think it can go either way, should I say. I think no one would look at that and see if West Ham win it or there's a draw or Burnley win it. No one's going to go, oh my God, they've won it. It's one of them games that can go either way. So when a game is like that, I tend to sit on the fence a little bit. And some of the podcast listeners do give me a bit of stick. But I'm going to sit on the fence again and go for 1-1, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, would I take another point? Yes.
Yeah. We'll just call it quits now and both take 1-1.
Yeah, we'll just do it and not play.
Yeah.
I think we're capable of winning a game. If we don't win, don't lose. That's the key. Keep the scoreboard ticking over, you know.
Yeah, of course. Of course. You do need to do that when you're down there, especially. Yeah. But thank you for coming on, Paul. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Mate, I loved it.
You can talk, which is good for a podcast, obviously. You've given some brilliant insight into sort of like West Ham and some of the situations going on there. So I hope the listeners have enjoyed it, because I do like getting an insight into other clubs. I've only just recently started getting fans of other clubs on, to be fair. But it is always something I did want to do. But now I've got this new software that I was telling you about off air. It makes it a lot easier to do and stuff like that. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for giving such an insight into West Ham.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we can... The two clubs can go on to good things end of this season and then on to the next one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think because of the results this season, this weekend, should I say, we are now mathematically safe. So we'll be there. I'm 99% confident that you're going to be there as well.
There you go, mate. Nice one.
Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll speak to you next season, hopefully.
Yeah, nice one. Thank you very much. Cheers, buddy.